Excerpts from the Bhavanakrama, or Stages of Meditation, by Kamalaśīla. The yogin should first perfect serenity in order to stabilize the mind. Because the mind is unstable like water, it can be stabilized with the dike of serenity. An uncollected mind cannot know things as they truly are, for the Blessed One has said that the collected mind discerns things as they are. Serenity is obtained more swiftly when one is indifferent to desire for gain, loss, etc., when one is firm in the practice of good conduct, when morality is equally pure in fortune and misfortune, and when one has gathered up energy. That is why, in texts such as the Samdhinirmochana, the perfect virtues, generosity, and the rest, are described in terms of a gradual ascent. Then, once one is thus established in the equipment required for the practice of serenity, which consists in moral behavior, generosity, patient acceptance, and fortitude, one should perfect concentration as follows. One goes to a place conducive to reflection, there pays obeisance to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, confesses his sins, and rejoices in the merit of all living beings. Then he focuses his mind on compassion, with the intention of saving the whole world. Then he sits with body erect in a comfortable posture with legs crossed. With this end in view, one should first fix his thought on the object that he proposes to consider, which should be such that it may serve as a summary of all things. Furthermore, this summary object should then be considered under one of two categories, either as material or immaterial. It is advisable that the beginner first take as objective support this summary object only, so as to avoid the defect of distraction. But once he has mastered the mental processes of attention, then he will refine his contemplation by means of distinctions, such as aggregates, bases, etc., and he may even choose a broader objective support. Thus, it is said in texts such as the Samdhinirmochana that the objective support of yogins can be of many kinds according to the division of emptiness into 18 aspects, etc. Also in this respect, for the sake of attracting different kinds of living beings, the Blessed One has explained in texts such as the Abhidharma the various divisions of the real object into material, immaterial, etc., in summarized forms, in intermediate forms, and in extended forms. Therefore, the real object should be considered in a summarized form, as aggregate, base, etc., in order to avoid falling into the extremes of affirmation and negation. Thereupon, once one has chosen the object that is to epitomize all things, one should continuously direct his mind to that object alone. But when the mind is pulled away to externals by other objects, like those that induce passion, disgust, and the like, then, once the distraction is noted, one should counteract it. For instance, if the distraction is pleasurable, one should bring to mind a mental image of the impure and unpleasant, or a similar meditation object. In this way, he should bring back his mind to the main object whenever necessary. But the various gradual methods of cultivating the image of the unpleasant and other similar techniques will not be explained here, for fear that we may overextend ourselves. Now, if on the other hand, the meditator notes that the mind finds no delight in the object of meditation, then he should cultivate the mind by finding delight in a review of the virtues of concentration, or counteract displeasure directly by contemplating the defects of distraction. Then again, if the mind is dull and the object is not clearly apprehended because lethargy or torpor dominate the mind, then he should suppress this dullness by attentively bringing to mind the virtues of a Buddha or other objects that may be a motive for rejoicing, or by developing images of light. Thus he will get to apprehend the object ever more firmly. Then again, If at another time he notes that the mind is excited by the memory of past moments of pleasure or laughter, then he should suppress this excitement by attentively bringing to mind with intensity the notions of impermanence, sorrow, and the like. Thereupon he should return to applying effort in following the object without any predisposition of the mind. Then, when he perceives that the mind, because it has become free from dullness and excitedness, is proceeding in equilibrium, moved only by its own taste, then it is in perfect equanimity because exertion has cooled down. If one applies effort as the mind is moving with equilibrium, then the mind will be distracted. But when the mind moves effortlessly as it wishes on the object, then one should know that serenity has been perfected. And this is the one universal characteristic of serenity. For the essence of serenity is only one-pointedness of mind, but its object is in no way predetermined. And the path of serenity has been explained by the Blessed One in texts such as the Noble Perfect Wisdom. When serenity is described with 9 words, there the mind stabilizes, establishes, holds back, reconciles, tames, calms, brings to rest, is tied to one point, is collected. The meaning is this: stabilizes, it is bound to the object. Establishes, it acts constantly upon the object. Holds back, it sees through distraction and avoids it. Reconciles, after avoiding distraction, it is again fixed to the object. Tames, it produces delight in the object. Calms, it brings to rest displeasure by means of the vision of the defects of distraction. Brings to rest, it brings to rest stiffness and torpor when they arise. Tied to one point, it applies effort towards following the object effortlessly. Is collected. The mind in equilibrium is in equanimity and gathered in itself. The meaning of these words has been explained by the ancient master Maitreya. In brief, states of concentration may suffer from some of the following defects. 1. Indolence. 2. Neglect of the object. 3 and 4. Dullness and excitedness. 5. Lack of exertion. And 6. Too much exertion. One should develop 8 counteragents that bring about the abandonment of these defects. To wit, 1. Faith. 2. Will. 3. Effort. 4. Ease. 5. Mindfulness. 6. Clear awareness. 7. Reflection. And 8. Equanimity. Of these, the first 4 are the counteragents of indolence. For in fact, the yogin's earnest desire for the benefits of concentration is produced by means of one of these 4, namely faith, which is defined as total confidence. Moved by this earnest desire, he will gather up energy. With the strength of this energy he attains to pliancy of mind and body. Then, with body and mind made pliant, he arrests indolence. Thus should he develop faith and the others in order to abandon indolence. The counteragent to neglect of the object is mindfulness. The counteragent to dullness and excitedness is clear awareness. Because, by means of clear awareness, there is a correct perception of dullness and excitedness. But, at the time of bringing to rest dullness and excitedness, the defect may be lack of exertion. Then, as its counteragent, one should develop reflection. With the calming of dullness and excitedness, however, the mind may follow a stiff tranquility. In that case, the defect is too much exertion. Equanimity should be developed as its counteragent. When concentration is accompanied by these 8 factors of relinquishment, it becomes extremely pliant. It produces faculties such as the supernormal psychic powers, etc. Thus, it has been said in the sutra, one who makes the right effort in meditation produces the 4 bases of supernormal psychic powers. And this one-pointedness of mind, as it becomes ever more pliant, and as it is joined to objects and conditions ever more excellent, receives different names, such as contemplations, formless attainments, liberations, etc. For in fact, when collectedness is accompanied by a feeling of equanimity, with consideration and discursive examination, then it is called preliminary contemplation. And when it is withdrawn from the thirst of desire and is accompanied by rapture, bliss, and inner calm, then it is called the first contemplation. But again, when this first contemplation is deprived only of consideration, it is called intermediary contemplation. When it is without both consideration and discursive consideration, withdrawn from the thirst for the level of the first contemplation, still accompanied by rapture, bliss, and inner calm, then it is called the second contemplation, accompanied by bliss, equanimity, mindfulness, and clear awareness. Then it is called the third contemplation. When it is withdrawn from the thirst for the level of the third contemplation, and is neither sorrowful nor blissful, accompanied by equanimity and mindfulness, then it is called the fourth contemplation. In the same way, one should construe the divisions into objects, modes, etc., with regard to the formless attainments, liberations, stations of mastery, etc. Once he has thus established the mind upon its object, he should sift the object through discernment. Because, once the light of knowledge appears, one can relinquish altogether the seed of delusion. For otherwise, by means of concentration only, as among the heretics, there would be no relinquishment of the afflictions, as it has been said in the sutra. Even if one cultivates this concentration, if he does not bring to an end perceptions of self, the afflictions will be aroused again, as was the case with Udraka Ramaputra's cultivation of concentration. In this concentration, the gradual process of developing discernment has been briefly described in the Yogācāra Sutra as follows. When one ascends to the condition of mind only, one does not construct any external object. Once he is firm in the object of suchness, he will go beyond mind only. Having gone beyond mind only, he will go beyond into non-representation. The yogin who is firm in non-representation sees the great vehicle. Once he has purified the serene, effortless course by means of his vows, he sees, by means of non-representation, the supreme knowledge that has no selfhood. The meaning of this passage is as follows. First, the yogin should examine discursively all material dharmas, which others imagine to exist as external objects. He reflects, are they different from consciousness itself, or are they only the very consciousness manifesting itself as in a dream? In this process of analysis, he considers them atomically, as if they were external to consciousness. When the yogin examines the atoms in their parts, he does not discover external objects anymore. When he cannot discover any object, it occurs to him, all this is mind only, there is no external object whatsoever. This is why the passage says, when he ascends to the condition of mind only, he does not construct any external object. The meaning is that he should give up all imaginative differentiations of material dharmas. He should consider them in terms of their non-apprehensibility, though they are objects endowed with signs of apprehensibility. Once he has put an end to material dharmas, he should in the same way put an end to immaterial ones. He should also consider mind only thus. If there is no perceived object, then there can be no perceiver either, because of the dependence of the perceiver on the perceived. Therefore, if mind lacks altogether perceived and perceiver, mind can only be non-dual. Once he is firm in the object of suchness, which is defined as the non-dual, he will go beyond the image of a perceiver. The meaning is that he will be firm in that knowledge of non-duality, which is the same as the non-representation of the dual. In the same way, having gone beyond mind only, he will also go beyond this knowledge which is the non-representation of the dual. Since there is no birth for entities either from themselves or from another cause, he will examine discursively thus. The reality of this knowledge is likewise without foundation, because it cannot be independent from the falsity of the perceived and the perceiver which it rejects. The meaning is that here too he should give up all obstinate mooring in the idea of a real thing as applied to the knowledge of non-duality, that he should be firm in a knowledge which is the non-representation of this very knowledge of non-duality. When he achieves this, he becomes firm in the full practice of the absence of intrinsic reality in all dharmas. He who is established in this, since he has penetrated into ultimate reality, has entered into the concentration without imaginative differentiations. Thus, when the yogin is firm in the knowledge, which is the non-representation of the knowledge of non-duality, since he is established in ultimate reality, he perceives the great vehicle.